Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Wayne County Board of Commissioners agenda for June 16, 2020. I want to remind everyone at this time to turn off your cell phones, if you will. And also remind that we are still in the phase 2 from the governor. We still have no more than 10 persons gathered. And you can read the information we have on the public meetings and so forth, what we need to do in order to maintain our social distancing. This morning we have the invocation by Pastor Nicholas World One Church. Who is going to introduce? You will. We have the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Aycock. Approval of the minutes and discussion and adjustment of agenda. Mr. Hmgp.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do have one walk-on we would like to do. Allison has some budget amendments that she has presented to you that we'll go over under the consent. And also, in talking with our attorneys, we are looking at, as you know, changing our franchise agreement for non-emergency transport, as they will begin doing more and more of that, and we're adding another franchisee. So we need to set a public hearing for our next meeting to revise that franchise agreement. That agreement, public hearing will be July 8th at 1 p.m. To receive comment on non-emergency transport franchise agreement, and we will put that under consent, but the public hearing would be set for July 8th.
And I'm also going to give you two, Michelle. I'm also going to pass out the copies of the budget ordinance and
Right.
the resolution that are not actually in the packet.
Right. As Carol said, the budget ordinance that she is passing out to you was not in your package. We thought we were going to do some things a little different. So that's the reason why it was not placed in your agenda packet. Since things have changed, we're going back to the budget that was presented to you at our public hearing 2 weeks ago.
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, so if I'm understanding you correctly, we're going to establish the public hearing today, we're going to put that on the consent agenda.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to have our public hearing on July 8th.
Yes, sir.
And then once the public hearing is obtained, at that point, you're going to go ahead and put it out for...
It's already out to bid now.
It's already out?
Yeah, the bids are to do today at 2.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, for the additional franchise.
So can we approve the additional franchise on July 8th?
Yes, sir.
Takes 2 public hearings. It takes
Well,
two-
excuse
two
me.
votes on the
Yeah, franchise.
franchise.
For a new franchise.
For any franchise.
Really? Takes 2.
2 separate meetings.
So we would actually vote on July 8th, and then our next meeting, which would be whatever.
21st.
When?
Regular meeting 21st.
The 21st. Okay.
But that way they'll be able to start ramping up and moving forward.
And under your current franchise, we can ask them to come in to help us if we need them, so they can ramp up before you have your 2 votes.
Right.
Once you have 2 companies offering that service, who is to determine who is to get what? That we're going to leave that to them?
That's up to the provider, or up to the hospital. That would be up to the nursing home, whoever. Right.
Okay. All right. Good enough.
Okay.
That is the only change to the agenda at this time. Next, under special presentation, Number one, motion to adopt Resolution 2020-23, resolution honoring the memory of George Floyd and decrying unlawful acts of law enforcement officers and applauding the lawful actions of first responders, including law enforcement officers. And working with Commissioner Cromartie and also Commissioner Worrell has gotten Sylvia Barnes, who will be here to read that resolution.
Okay.
Then, under number two, or unfinished business, number one, motion to adopt the 2020-21 Wayne County Budget Ordinance. As the board is aware, we have held our public hearing 2 weeks ago. Nothing has changed from that presentation, and this ordinance reflects what you were presented 2 weeks ago. Same tax rate, 66 3/5 cents. Same use of fund balance, so. Then we have public comments.
Mr. Manager,
Yes, sir.
on the budget, let's, it's just my opinion. We've already discussed this in depth. So, when it comes up for, I'm going to vote on it.
Okay.
You didn't have an additional message anyway, did you?
No, nothing changed in the message
Right.
from the last 2 weeks.
Okay. We're good.
Then appointment committee,
Yes, sir, we do have some reappointments, and we have one adjustment.
and then after appointment committee is consent agenda. We do have a property tax exclusion on pages 6 through 9, which has been recommended by the tax department and or recommended by staff. And then number two, we do have budget amendments that are in your book, but also since this is year end, our last commissioners meeting before the end of the fiscal year, we did have some walk-on budget amendments as well. So I'll turn that to Allison.
Okay, I'll start with in your book first on page 10. For the Wayne County Development Alliance, this budget amendment is to appropriate potential grant funds for the Goldsboro Industrial Campus. Those grant funds will not be pulled down any further until we've got some resolution on some questions, I think, regarding that property. But we do have to go ahead and appropriate the funds for the year end and also make an accounting adjustment where we are moving the expenditures from a capital line item to a non-capital line item.
Excuse me. Aren't we going to be having the budget amendments shown on the screen here or not?
They can be. The budget amendment shown on the screen.
Mr. Dobbs since I didn't get him.
Yeah, because this is kind of a dry run so that we can eliminate all this paperwork. So are the budget amendments, can you scroll the budget amendments on our screens?
Let me,
Because I'm doing it by memory from what I read.
typically, we don't do that during this meeting. We do it at the pre-agenda meeting or staffing. But I can pull that up if you'll give me just a moment.
Well, and I don't want to complicate things, but if we eliminate all the paper, then we would have to have these showing on the screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Yeah.
So we're doing a dry run today.
Okay.
If we can.
There we go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you.
So you can see we're appropriating the grant funds in the amount of $1.75 million. And again, those will not be drawn down until we are certain that we can draw those funds down. And then the other piece of that is moving the expenditures that we have made on that property from a capital line item to a non-capital line item. Okay, your next one is for fleet management. We are requesting to appropriate an additional $12,200 in parks revenue. And we've overcollected on that line item, but we do have some additional year-end expenditures that we need to cover. And you will see those allocated at the top of that budget amendment. For the health department, we're asking to adjust the WIC breastfeeding peer counseling program by $9,210. This was related to an agreement addendum that was done and submitted in error, so they are correcting that and adjusting the line items. For the medical examiner's office, there are two. There's the one that you're seeing now, number 537, and then 538 is attached behind it. I grouped these together. So we have to pay for death investigations and autopsies, and the state covers a portion, and then the county in which the resident, in which the decedent resided is also responsible for paying a portion of that. So that number has exceeded what we budgeted for this year, and I'm requesting to reallocate some unused travel funds and other expenditures to help offset that cost. And it's really difficult to predict that cost. It really just depends on how many they do in a year. So I'm on page 19 now in your agenda, and we're on services on aging. We're asking to anticipate and appropriate an additional $3,958 for the senior SHIP program. These are grant monies that we receive. And I don't believe there's any county dollars involved, but they're allocating the expenditures accordingly. For the sheriff's office, we're anticipating and appropriating $3,174.71 in insurance refunds. For 911 communications, and just to clarify, this is the unrestricted portion of 911 funds. They do have some CAD maintenance expenditures that were not approved by the board, the 911 board. There was a portion that was approved, but this is the portion that was not approved. So the 911 board determined that they would cover $25,173, and we were responsible for $22,156. For EMS, they are asking to reallocate salaries and wages in the amount of $11,715.07 for regular part-time salaries and unscheduled overtime. This is due to vacancies that they have in the office and they had to fill with overtime and part-time. For the health department, they are asking to anticipate and appropriate an additional $449 for the WIC program.
Is that Dr. Wise's first budget amendment?
Let's see, I believe it might be the first official.
Yes.
For hospitalization, we're requesting to anticipate using about $13,000 in the hospitalization fund balance, not the general fund, but hospitalization fund. These are additional costs in our wellness program. And on the memo, you'll see that we've had an increase in employees taking advantage of various services that are being offered, like TB testing, hepatitis B, vaccines, and diabetes screening. For the COVID-19 related specifically to Fema reimbursement, you've got a pretty detailed budget amendment here totaling $160,549.10. This is the amount to date that we are anticipating asking for reimbursement for FEMA. We realize there will be additional expenditures, and we will account for those as those come in.
And if you remember, this is not the CARES funding. So the CARES funding is set up differently, and what the state has basically asked us to do is use your FEMA reimbursement first, save your CARES money, because that's got to last you to year end. So our CARES application was sent in yesterday as it was due. We're now working on some final issues with that. We'll be getting out to municipalities' requirements. The process has changed daily on the CARES, so we're still working through it, but I appreciate the work Allison and her staff has done to get us to this point.
And that money has actually already been received. They provided the money up front, and then anything that's not used by year end will be sent back to the state. And Andrew is working on a subrecipient agreement, a template that we received from Buncombe County that would kind of give them some things that they had to agree to before they could be a subrecipient of CARES funds.
Right.
That would be for like our municipalities and our fire departments.
Because we're responsible for their expenditure. So if they do not expend the funds correctly, then it could fall back on us.
Those funds are specifically designed to pay for what?
COVID-related expenses. Like, remember we talked about the testing program that we're going to do, and we've set aside $200,000. That will specifically go towards that. So, and also additional costs that we've had in the county as well. So there's a lot of different things we're looking at. We're holding those funds really tight to the best because, again, they're supposed to last us through December 31st.
Thank you for.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you for the full clarification.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Spade, you mentioned, maybe the manager did mention, the reimbursements to the fire departments. Aaron is communicating with them, correct?
We have not gotten it finalized. Originally, we were told that you had to do UG guidelines. Now they're saying you don't have to do UG guidelines. So we're trying to get that clarified. Once we get those issues clarified, then we were going to let the fire department.
Okay, well, but my reason for even bringing this up is they're not having meetings right on. So, the only correspondence they're having now is with him through emails. And again, I had the fire chief tell me last night they are tickled to death the way he sends the stuff out.
Right.
I mean, they're very pleased with the way he's operating.
Good.
But again, the Firemen's Association is not having meetings, and but as long as they're corresponding, I'm good with that.
We'll make sure, like I said, we still are working on the guidelines because it changed as of yesterday.
Okay.
And we have flexibility in that plan that we submitted yesterday to make changes, almost like we do budget amendments.
Okay, thank you.
The next budget amendment is for the health department. They are asking to reallocate $11,010 from professional services medical to just professional services. And this is just an adjustment to one of their contracts and the line item that it was actually paid out of. For the sheriff's office, they are requesting to reallocate funds from their non-capital seized property funds. This is their federal monies they receive to capital outlay vehicles. This will be used to purchase surveillance system for a new vehicle that will be used in the seized property program. For the staff attorney's office, they have additional revenues, staff attorney's fees, costs that must be reimbursed, offset by some other expenditures related to foreclosures. They've exceeded their projected revenues for the year and are having to adjust those projections through June 30.
Good job.
Good.
We like those budget amendments.
Yeah.
For the sheriff's office, they're asking to reappropriate from non-capital to capital, and this is another budget amendment from their federal seized property funds. This will be $11,152 to purchase night goggles for the aviation unit.
Wow, $5.
For the Register of Deeds Office, we are requesting to anticipate and appropriate $7,500 in additional fees owed to the state. They've over-collected in this line item, and there's a portion of that is required to be sent to the state. For Cooperative Extension, they've received a donation in the amount of $2,500 from Southern Bank to be used towards their robotics program. For EMS, we are asking to appropriate $11,000 out of the fund balance line item and reallocate $4,000 to use towards maintenance and repairs of vehicles. You probably have remembered that we've done a couple of these in the past few months, and they've had about $48,000 in repairs for some of their ambulances that were over and above what they expected to do this year. So they are having to reallocate some funds to cover those expenditures through the end of the year. And that's all I have in your book. You have a packet that I gave to you that is about, I think it's 3 budget amendments that we're asking to walk on. The first one is number 591 for the Jetport. We are asking to decrease the projected use of fund balance by the amount of $41,483 and increase the amount we're expecting to receive in NPE funds. We were able to secure some additional funding from unused dollars from Macon County and reallocate those to our project. So that saves us on some fund balance use. Your next budget amendment is number 595 for the Sheriff's Office. They have received $4,748.32 in insurance money for a vehicle that was damaged. And then your third budget amendment is number 606 for EMS. We're asking to reallocate $6,875 in salaries and wages. That's basically our lapsed salaries for the health insurance opt-out program. They had additional employees to opt out that we did not, that they didn't budget for. Sometimes that number is hard to project because you don't know what people are going to choose. So we're asking to allocate additional funds to that line item.
And all of these employees were at EMS?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I know that was enough. That's all I've got for you. Is there any questions?
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
while we are at it, could I ask maybe the staff find some way to possibly rearrange the budget amendment sheet so that it shows up better on our screens? That was one thing I'm seeing here, that maybe just by redesigning that particular sheet, I don't know when this was designed, but I'm sure many years ago, but if we could redesign it maybe to where we can have the budget amendment and also the explanation that would show up on the screen itself.
We are actually working on that because of the new software implementation. We're working on an electronic form. So if you'll give me maybe a couple of months to get that done, I'm working with IT to get a form designed that will also be more user-friendly. But I'll keep that in mind as well to hopefully make it a little bit more friendly for the screen as well.
Okay, great.
Is it just me, or am I paranoid? But it seems like to me, we're getting budget amendments almost every meeting on the 911 center because of expenses that the 911 board won't cover. Is this going to be a continuing thing?
Well, the expenses that we're seeing now is really dealing with Spillman and the reimbursement just from what restricted and non-restricted funds and the fights that we have had with the 911 board over what's allowable, what's not allowable. So these right now, and Allison, correct me if I'm wrong, are not the grant funding. This is just
That's right.
this is just a regular allocation.
We're trying to close out a
You're right.
report that's 2 years old.
Right.
And the staff, Chris Barnes and Tina,
Right.
worked with the 911 board for almost a year trying to get as much of that reimbursed as possible. And so that's why you're just now seeing sort of some of that fallout and where it landed.
Well, I was just wondering, is there going to be an end to this? You know, so-
We hope.
No.
We hope.
Okay, thank you.
Next that we have is, thanks, Allison, motion to approve award for demolition and asbestos removal services related to the Hmgp, which is the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, acquisition and demolition projects to Jones Grading and Fencing, East Coast Environmental Services, and AK Grading and Demolition Incorporated. And you have that information on pages 47 and 48. Again, with the size of this project, we broke it up in phases. There's 53 properties that we're looking at doing demolition work to. One company could not have done it all in a timely manner, so that's the reason why we broke it up in phases. Still took the lowest bid for each phase.
How many properties?
53. So, but these are all CDBG or HMGP funds.
Yeah, am I correct that once these properties, the demo takes place, those properties are actually going to be transferred over to the county?
If they're in the county, yes. If they're in the city, they'll be the cities. Is that, yes?
You won't be able to build on it again, right?
No.
But we'll have
Kendall's
to
already got
maintain.
trees. Kendall's already got trees that he is ready to place on the site. So we're not looking at having this as a maintenance issue for the
So we're
county.
gonna plant trees.
Plant trees all over
Tree
everything.
farm.
Yes, sir.
Great. Okay. Okay.
Next is a motion to change the July 7th, 2020 Board of Commissioners regular meeting to July 8th, 2020 at 1 p.m. Usually we cancel our July 4th meeting or the first meeting in July. However, we have some issues that we need to resolve, which is next on our agenda, that we just recommended pushing it off a day.
Okay.
Okay. And then under new business, number 1 on page 50 is a motion to approve the timeframe for filling the seat of former Commissioner A.J. Gurley. This is very similar to the timeframe that we recently just did for Commissioner Bell. What we're asking for is today adopting the schedule. June 30th would be the last day for applications to be submitted, resumes, cover letters, and that's required to be to the county clerk by 5 p.m. July 8th, again, that would be our regular meeting that we rescheduled from July 7th, and we'll start that meeting at 1 p.m. Part of the reasoning for that, we should not have a lot on the agenda. Right now, there is nothing. There may be some very small things, but nothing we should have as far as the regular monthly meeting. So once our meeting is adjourned, 10 minutes later, we will do interviews for that position. And like we did with Commissioner Bell, we recessed that meeting. There was no questions, no discussion really. We recessed that meeting until July 14th at 1 p.m. Then the board would make a decision at that time. And then looking at July 21st, the new board member would be sworn in.
Okay.
So that is a correction on our agenda where it says motion to change the July 7th Board of Commissioners regular meeting to July 8th. It should be July 14th.
No, it's still the 8th. It's still the 8th. That's still our first meeting.
Yeah, first meeting.
That's still our first meeting.
Oh, okay, all right, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Dates are mixing up in my mind, I'm sorry.
Also, then on the consent agenda, did you leave out number 5 that we added?
That's what I was going to ask you.
Oh, you are
The public hearing.
correct. I'm sorry. Number 5, we will be setting a public hearing for July 8th at 1 PM for the first reading of the non-emergency transport franchise agreement. Thank you, Commissioner Raycock. Had it written down somewhere. And that'll be on consent as well, number 5.
Okay.
And if there's no questions about the process to fill the vacancy, number 2, we do have a request from the developer of the property downtown, which we have given a agreement to for historic tax credits. There is some minor changes to the square footage and to the number of units that they're doing. Still basically the same project. They're actually adding 8 additional residential units. However, they are losing about 1,100 square feet in commercial space. So basically the same project, but once they have gotten into it and finally done the final design work, they realized everything didn't fit like they wanted. So
It's still in design.
it's still, yes, sir, it's still the same, you know, it's actually, the project has increased in amount. So the project's still moving forward, but we had to change the square footage and the number of units because our original agreement was very specific about what those were supposed to be. And this should have been approved by the city of Goldsboro last night.
Okay.
All right.
Any questions? All right.
And then county manager's comments, board of commissioners' comments, closed session, board of commissioners' information, and then adjourn.
Okay, does any commissioners have any changes or questions about our agenda? Okay, we have a closed session today, Mr. Parker?
Yes, sir, to discuss matters relating to the location of businesses in Wayne County, to consider the performance and competence of employees, and to consult with your attorneys to preserve attorney-client privilege.
We have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Okay, raise your right hand, please. Okay.